the mood, and then we'll do some discussion like we did in the morning. Yeah? So I have 2 or 3 slides that I just want to go through. One of the slides is thinking about, okay, generally not about ICT financing. We can think about institutions like our universities go through phases. We go through phases.
Sorry.
This doesn't seem to work. Anybody with a pointer? Anybody with a pointer? Mumbo has a pointer. Thank you very much.
Where was it? I myself, I might have seen it at...
we can think about we can think of the use and impact of ICTs. We go through phases. If you think about like some of the new university colleges that have been created recently in the last 1 year or so, we go through a phase where ICT is generally new. Like for example, when we went to Karatina University College, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no ICT. And we are supposed to connect nothing. So we start from a place where we start from a situation where there is hardly any ICT. Then you start laying infrastructure, creating local area networks, buying servers. If you have other campuses, you start creating wide area networks. Some people who are exposed to ICTs start experimenting with ICTs. There's gradual acceptance of the use of ICTs. There's limited or no budget. Sometimes there's no budget in the situations where you are starting off from almost nothing. And you're generally, in terms of ICT staffing, you're employing very low-level technicians and so on and so forth. But with time, and this is a time dimension, if you imagine this is a time dimension, you move away from these situations where ICT is being introduced with almost no impact, to a situation where you start growing with respect to the use and impact of ICTs. Those of you who have done stages of growth or life cycle analysis, this should be very familiar. So you move to a second stage where students and staff start demanding ICTs. We have seen that in many universities. Largely the development of ICT being driven by the demand, largely, particularly by the students. Then you start having internet connections, starting with very low bandwidth and increasing the bandwidth with time. You start implementing MIS applications. In many places, the human resource management system, particularly payroll, because you have to pay employees. The payroll must be there, then probably followed by a financial management system, then probably followed by a library system, whatever order. There will be introduction of MIS applications. At one stage or another, probably not at this stage, depending on the championship that you have, then you have e-learning and it starts growing, pole. And then top management start realizing, oh, this thing called ICT we really can't do without. So they start talking about ICT in management meetings, they start championing ICT in general. And then budgets begin to be found about ICT. You start reprioritizing and having some budgets. KENET tells you increase this budget, you defer and eventually you accept to increase the budgets, or somebody else tells you to increase the budgets. But after sometimes you start realizing, particularly when you are moving towards the end of the growth period, you start realizing, oh, we must have controls. We must start implementing some controls, because we can't just keep on spending and developing ICT like this without controls. So you start introducing controls towards the end of this growth period, until you get to a point where you are now mature in terms of the use of ICT. in terms of the impact of ICT. You find ICT being used in everywhere. In the earlier panel, we saw that most of the universities have computerized most aspects of their business, right from the core business of teaching and learning, to some research, to library, to administrative areas like finance and human resources, and so on and so forth. So we have ICT impacting almost everything that you do within your organization. Largely ICT, and we've been arguing that ICT really is one that we can use for improving quality of teaching and learning, but also quality of service delivery to our customers, whoever our customers are, our students, our staff, but also improving governance and impacting on governance. So we reach a situation of maturity where ICT is regarded as a strategic resource and is impacting all aspects of our university life. And we can continue growing, or we can continue in that maturity stage, or we can even decline, or we can even draw a new curve at the point of maturity, or even at the time of growth. But if we are not careful, we can start sliding down, where, for example, technology has changed and you have not kept with the technology, you have obsolete technology, you cannot, for example, sustain the ICT that you have developed within the institution. You do not have adequate budgets. Your staff start running away to the extent that you cannot support the infrastructure that you have built. So it is possible, or complacency sets in. You are the leader. You are the one who has been leading the university back. And complacency sets in. Just like there has been complacency in Kenya, we are number one, and so on and so forth. University of Nairobi was caught by that bug. We became complacent, and other people have come and passed us in so many ways. So if you're not careful, complacency can set in. This is when you can go into decline. So when we are thinking about budgets within a university, we also go through the same kind of life cycle. We start with hardly anything. After some time, we get convinced that it is important to invest in ICT. We start seeing some benefits. And the budget increases to a point where we start saying, yeah, now I think we have stabilized with respect to funding for ICT. And if you're not careful, then this can go down. So I want to just introduce this as a way of beginning this. And then I have another slide which says, what really determines whether ICT contributes value to your primary business? And I have thought about a number of issues. Because at the end of the day, you are not investing in ICT for the sake of investing in ICT. You're investing in ICT so that it contributes value to your business, to your teaching, to your research, to revenue generation, whatever it is that you are. You must have a business reason why you are investing in ICT. One of the important things, and this has been proved by research, is the reporting level of the boss of ICT. In 2004, we had a workshop here, not in this hotel, of all the vice chancellors. At that time, we didn't have all these many university colleges. We had 5 or 6 universities, public universities, and a few private universities. And we said, look, we need to move away from what we've been doing, because research has proved that the reporting level of the head of ICT is very important. When you have the head of ICT reporting to academic head, a head of a department, or a dean, it is disastrous. So we asked all the universities to baptize their ICT head and call them ICT directors. And all of them baptized them. Most of them baptized them and called them ICT directors. Not baptizing literally, but creating new positions. Because you don't promote someone who is not promotable, become ICT director, somebody with a diploma or something. So we said, call them ICT directors and have a proper job description for them, and let them report the highest level, and that happened. So the reporting level, the higher the reporting level, the more impact of ICT, the more impact ICT is likely to have within an organization. That has been proved by empirical evidence from research, but also it is not just having an ICT director who is reporting to the CEO or to the VC. It is the quality of that ICT director, because it must be somebody who first of all has got the technical qualifications, but they also must know the business of the university, because at the end of the day, ICT is about ICT having an impact on the primary business of the university. So it must be somebody who has got expertise in the primary business. So the quality of the ICT director is an important one, and that is something that we did not stress in 2004. Yeah? But very importantly is the communication between ICT and the university management, because you need to understand each other. University management must understand the role of ICT. Like in the morning, a lot of people were asking, some of these things are not familiar. And at the end of the day, as the university head, you must understand ICT. You must understand some things about ICT. But at the same time, ICT must understand the business. And therefore, ICT management and the university management must understand each other. Each must understand each other and where they're coming from. That is the only way. And they don't understand each other through formal meetings like university management, board meetings, or anywhere. In fact, it has been proved that more informal interaction is even more critical. Informal interactions, like informal interactions during a forum like this one. You are an ICT director and your boss is here, and you can discuss even some projects which were difficult to approve. You can get them approved during these sessions. Yeah? So, talk nicely. So informal, but also pervasive communication. Yeah? Pervasive communication. Not in just informal meetings where ICT director, what do you think? Informal meetings, board meetings. So informal and pervasive communication between the two levels of management. The other one is shared domain knowledge between ICT and university management. They must share perspectives. Yeah? And it's related also to this one, because more communication leads to sharing the knowledge. University management sharing the knowledge about ICT, and ICT sharing the knowledge about ICT with management. Yeah? So there must be shared knowledge to also harmonize the perspectives of the two levels of management. But very importantly is partnership. Because if you don't look at ICT and institutional business or institutional management being partners, and partnership doesn't stop with these two, we must also partner with others, with the user management, and with other external stakeholders. But this partnership is much more critical between ICT and the university management. That partnership, for example, I've given an example here, ICT and business, improvising together to meet challenges. We have had several challenges. To ICT management and university management sit together to ask, how can we solve this challenge? How can we solve the challenge of quality, for example? Is ICT relevant in improving the quality of our services, the quality of any products that you create within the institution? So that partnership to solve problems within the institution is very, very important. The other one is the quality of ICT staff. The quality of ICT staff is very important, particularly your professional ICT staff. And the quality of ICT infrastructure is very important. And finally, a budget. Of course, if you have no budget, you will have no ICT infrastructure and you will have no impact for ICT. Or ICT will not have impact in your organization. So for you to have any impact, or for ICT to contribute anything to the university, really you must have an investment. And therefore you must have a budget. We're talking about budget. So I decided to include these other issues, which I believe are important. And this is just so that we can create a basis for discussion. Finally, what fraction of the ICT expenditure, or ICT expenditure is a percentage of the total expenditure of the institution, Or you can look at it as ICT budget is a proportion of the total institutional budget. What is it? We did with Meoli some research, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with our e-readiness research that we've been carrying out. We have done around 3 rounds. Initially, in fact 4 rounds. Initially we did the readiness of government, the total government. And then we did about 17 universities. And then we did 50 universities in East Africa. And then we did another 10 universities. And we've been asking this question. This is one of the indicators. ICT expenditure as a percentage of the institutional total expenditure, excluding personnel emoluments, because we did not put personnel emoluments there. But since it was very difficult to find information about expenditure, we used a proxy. We could not find information about ICT expenditure. A lot of institutions were hiding this information or did not have it. So we used a proxy, which is the amount you spend on bandwidth. At the time you were spending money on satellite bandwidth, it was one of the most important amounts of money in a university. And therefore we used that as a proxy, the amount of money used on bandwidth as a proxy of the ICT expenditure. And we had this staging framework where we said if you have less than 0.3%, you're in stage 1. And the highest stage is stage 4, which is where everybody should be moving towards. And we say it should be at least more than 2%. I don't know, maybe you start calculating at the back of an envelope what is the percentage for your institution. And I'll go around and ask you how much you spent on this. But our research showed that most institutions were in stages 1 and 2. We were spending very little on ICT. We found that on average, in our 2009 research, for 17 KENET universities, both private and public, they were around 1.6. It was even worse for the other universities in the East African region, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and I think worst was Burundi. And very few institutions were found to be in stage 3 and stage 4. Where in stage 4, we are talking about at least 2%. In terms of international benchmarks, there are universities that are spending more than 5%, others even more than 10%. Yeah? But this is for our own local situation. And we ask ourselves, if we were to grade our institutions, what percentages should we be talking? And I would like to hear about any institution which is spending more than 2%. Yeah? And I'm sure there will be very few in this room. But it will be interesting to find out this. This is all I wanted to say as a beginning. There was another slide. This is the final slide. Before we start the debate. Now, how do we measure the value of ICT in the institution? And here, I followed the balance scorecard. I don't know how many people use the balance scorecard for planning. I know Strathmore does. Anybody else uses the balance scorecard for planning? Strategic planning? Nobody else. Okay. Now, 4 dimensions. Financial. I've just put indicators there. We can use ICT to reduce operational cost. We can use ICT to help us to increase revenue. Yeah? Customer service. Service delivery. Improving the quality of service delivery for our customers. Attracting and retaining customers. That is almost like using ICT to create an edge over your competitors. For example, we were talking about the white generation. Is it you, Mumbo, who was talking about the white generation? Or somebody else? Somebody else in one of the panels was talking about the white generation. We talked about it, yes. The so-called millennials. Attracting the white generation. The University of the Future must be able to attract the white generation. And if you're old-fashioned university, who has not invested in ICT, that generation will not come to university. We are university. So we must start thinking about how will we attract that generation to our institutions. So this is using ICT as a mechanism of getting more customers, yeah? Over your competitors. Of course, processes, improving the effectiveness and efficiency of your business processes. Like for example, during the last session before lunch, the VC who is just coming in from USIU talks about achieving 95-96% debt collection. 98%?
Up to 98%.
Wow, 19%. I am sure if I went around and asked how many people are above 90% on debt collection.
The lights went out.
That shows we are doing very badly on debt collection.
It's a dim situation.
I am sure there will be very few people above 90%. Or maybe you don't even monitor. I don't know. Yeah? And that is using ICT. That is using ICT to help you in one of the processes. Yeah? So we can use ICT. So, but also we can use ICT for future readiness, to create readiness for the future. That is, instead of positioning to meet future challenges, to what extent do you use ICT to position yourself for the future? Like, for example, even this is positioning yourself for the future. Yeah? So these are examples of how we can use ICT to add value to our business. And then I have some questions which can guide discussion. Mine was just to, I decided to make a few slides so that we can guide discussion. We discussed about power issues in the morning, and this is evidence of the same. Is ICT considered as a cost or an investment in your institution? When you are discussing ICT issues, do you look at ICT as a cost, as management, or do you look at it as an investment? Very important distinction. Number two, can you tell us the top 3 priority ICT investment areas for the new universities? Like the new universities, Karatina, and many others that are here. What are your priority areas? What are the priority areas of the mature universities? University of Nairobi, USIU, and so on and so forth. What are your priorities? We want to know what are the big issues in those 2 categories. And what is the ICT expenditure as proportion of the institutional expenditure? And I told you to do this at the back of an envelope so that you can share with us. Do you take this as one of the important KPIs, key performance indicators, to monitor? Is this an important parameter to monitor? Is this an important indicator to monitor? Do you have KPIs that measure the value of ICT to your institution? Now that we have talked about the value of ICT. And what are the top 3? Those are the things that I had prepared. Those are the points that I had prepared for our discussion, to get our discussion. I don't have a panel here, but we can discuss, and somebody is in a tutorial. So I want to stop there, and I don't know how you want us to proceed. This is not an exhaustive list of things to discuss, but you can discuss anything about ICT financing and budgets. But this is a guide. So the person with the mic, I open it up to the audience to interject and ask questions. I don't have the answers, but all of us... The reason why we excluded personnel emoluments is because we were sensitive to availability of data in a ready form. Because an indicator is just an indicator. It gives you an indication which direction things are moving. So we basically focused not on investment, but we actually focused on operational expenditure. Yeah? And therefore, we focused on how much you are spending on bandwidth as a percentage of your recurrent expenditure. Yeah? But if you are to measure it properly, you would definitely need to include the investment on human resources. Yeah. But this is a common measure. Expenditure on ICT as a proportion of the total recurrent expenditure. It's a common indicator that is used. Yeah. So that is the reason. of excluding personnel emoluments. And we were sensitive that some of this information might not be available in our institutions readily. And from our experience also, most institutions would not be considering PE as part of calculating the percentage they spend on ICT, particularly in the public universities, where the PE is largely paid by the government, or most of it is paid by the government. The value of ICT, yes, I agree. With the value of ICT, a lot of the value is strategic. And if you look at some of the things that I showed there, like customers, a lot of that is strategic. Yeah? And therefore, it will be a mixture of strategic as well as operational benefits. Yeah. Any other question? Maybe beyond your plan?
Maybe I've just got a comment regarding zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, a comment regarding that percentage. In 2006, when we did the 17 universities, actually we did 25 institutions, which included some of the non-university colleges. At that time, the biggest pressure, because those are the satellite days, the biggest pressure was, the biggest call was that bandwidth is too expensive. So we did a calculation. We collected the data about how much you are actually spending and divided it with the total expenditure. And we also collected data on the mobile telephone bills. Now, if you remember, at that time, mobile telephone bills were not integrated with the PABX. They were given to the senior management, probably in public universities from Dean up. They were entitled to a mobile phone expenses. We found that a lot of us were spending less than 0.5%. So we went back with the data, with those 17 universities, and we asked them, if you are spending so little, how can you complain that it's expensive? Something is not affordable when it is taking too much of your expenditure. But this is insignificant. In fact, you are spending less on internet than on mobile phones. Internet was supposed to serve the students, but the mobile phones were serving the senior management. And so, confronted with that data, what happened is a complete transformation of percentages. So now, if we were to show you the percentages, many of the public universities have moved to about 1%. And the big universities are still doing under 1%. The small universities are going on to even 4%, 3%. Because they value IT, that they value, remember the internet budget is a proxy to ICT budget, as far as we are concerned. It's very easy to collect data on ICT, on internet budget. Not so easy for most of you to collect data on ICT budget. Because especially if you don't have an ERP. So that is how this has evolved. So as you think about it, if something is so important, should it not be reflected in how much you are spending?
Yeah, I think there are two people who want to talk. Most of Nairobi is talking.
Thank you very much. I want to comment. I hope it's no order where you listen. I want to comment on
there's no order. Yes, there's no order.
The three investment areas.
Yes.
We don't have a written document to indicate the priority investment areas, but from the experience, we see the issue of value addition to what we already have, where we are thinking of things like video conferencing, we are thinking of smart card technology to enhance effective access to services. We are looking at applications for applications which help in service delivery, and also enabling access, flexible access, including wireless connectivity. From the way we are spending our budget, that seems to be the heaviest areas where we are concentrating. And then in number 5, the performance, or rather the indicators, the KPIs. I also don't have any concrete data, but from what I hear from our CEO, our Vice Chancellor, who is here, I would speak for him, but from what I hear him speak, every day he's bragging that he's able to know exactly how much money is collected every day. He can tell you from the figure in his laptop of his, how much. So in terms of making decisions, he likes that very much. So it's a top priority area, being able to know how he is doing in terms of debt collection. So debt collection is top, because every moment the CEO is talking about, he's able to effectively get his due from students on time. Because we have SMIs where students register through and integrated with the financial system. So that is, in my view, one area in terms of measuring the impact of ICT at the university level. The second one also is using ICT for student processing of marks. SMI, student marks processing. That seems to have a very high impact, because it has reduced the turnaround time in terms of delivering service to students, and the headache of production of graduation lists seem to have gone away. Still a challenge because of some of the areas here and there, but it seems to be a very high priority area. The third one is the transcripts. It's also related to the student marks. We used to take 2 months to produce student transcripts. Those of you who are students at the University of Nairobi, you know you get it on a day, within an hour. You apply, you come back and collect it. So that seems to be an extremely high impact. So in terms of measurement of the value of ICT investments. A few others, those are the ones. Remember.
Thank you very much. I think before we go to Strathmore, I would ask some of the newer universities to think about that number 5, and also tell us number 3, the way the ones Omanga's addressed. To think about, tell us something about your 3 investment areas and your top KPIs, the top 3 KPIs. You can see from Dr. Omanga's one is about the investment areas is about adding value, most of them. The KPIs are much to do with management information and the service delivery. Yeah? Large indicators are along those lines.
I have 2 things. One question for you is about the ICT director. You mentioned that that person has to have quality. I have a dilemma, which is
You must have what?
a dilemma. I would like to have an ICT director, like a sort of a geek, IT geek, a kid who goes around thinking outside of the box all the time and seeing opportunities to use the technology, the computer and all, in helping people to do things in a better way, cheaper way, faster way. Now, these features are mostly found in young people, you know, newly graduated or not even yet graduated kids, and yet to be a CIO or a ICT director, we all agree that strategically this person has to be up there together with the CTO, CEO, and all. So now, should we perhaps be a PhD holder and all? So how do we combine these 2 things? Because I actually find that sometimes PhD holders, people who are BBC, you know, these born before computer, they really do not have that feature. So they go around perhaps not justifying the salary they get as the ICT director. So that's the first question that I would like you to throw some light in. And the second one is also a dilemma, is that as you have mentioned, we would do well if you were to spend a better part of our budget in purchasing good stuff for ICT and infrastructure and all. But I have a challenge about the utilization of these facilities. I give you an example. We, about a year ago, we went into voice over IP as our phone system in Strathmore. And it is a beautiful gadget we got, and it was installed so easily there. It is connected to your computer. It has reduced our phone bills. But the problem is that I realized that even myself, I use less than 10% of the facilities of that gadget. And there is a challenge. How can you people, or how can the ICT director or his team or her team to help me to make better use of those infrastructure I paid so much money for? So those are the questions.
Those were very good questions. I thought he was also going to tell us something about Strathmore and the priority areas and the key top KPIs. Please jot them down. We'll come to you next time. Anybody else, particularly from one of the newer universities? Does anybody want to give us something that we can share? Yes, yes, Jordi?
Just a bit on the statistics. I was just calculating how much we spent last year on ICT, and it is considerable from what we have there. And I believe we should be in stage 2.
What is the percentage?
9%.
9%?
Yes.
Wow. Capital investment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So much of that has gone into the infrastructure, the computers and the software.
Anything else?
Stage 4. Or stage 5.
KPIs? Do you have any KPIs?
Off the scale.
I think we're at 3.6%.
Don't worry, we don't have.
We do have,
Additionally,
but
between
I think
5
we are in
and
the
10.
process of setting up the system
Yes.
fully, so it's going to become operational.
Okay, can we have a mic for
Yes, we've gone through a lot of coming out of complacency, as you talked about. And right now we've updated our backbone, finishing off the last segment of it. And we've done the software that we wanted. And the systems tend to be working pretty good. Some of it is a matter of getting some staff updated and some people coming in to train them in some of the new modules that we're placing in our ERP system. So we've gone through a lot right now, and our next step was then to go through a COVID audit, and I'll be talking about some of that tomorrow. And that COVID audit looked at and set for us certain priority areas.
Yes.
And one of the topmost is security. So for us now, one of the top areas is security and looking at ICT governance and strategy. So those are our two primary areas at this point.
Thank you very much. As you have heard, USIU, which I would put as a mature university, is focusing on security and ICT governance as two big issues. Yeah? Professor Kioni's one, I think this one is distorted because you are investing in ICT. And normally we tend to look at the recurrent expenditure, we use that. But if you are going to use it, because you only invest once in a while. Yeah? The next investment might be a couple of years. You don't go investing every year. You go initially be investing on a regular basis. But we would wish to look at the more recurrent expenditure as a percentage of the total recurrent expenditure. That will give you a more better comparison.
He's saying that capital,
But
we only need to do
maybe
once.
as a clarification, the 9% is that you are taking the total ICT and the total expenditure, both recurrent and the capital.
No, that's just the recurring, excluding the monuments.
Wow.
Excluding the personnel, just like you have done it.
Okay.
So the 9% is all recurrent, ICT recurrent expenditure, or is it the
10%
is capital investment?
including the capital investment.
Including,
Yes.
but the denominator, does it include the capital investment?
No, just the recurring.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you remove the capital on the numerator, if you remove the capital investment, you calculate. Because I can see you have everything.
Yes, yes, he has got the worksheet.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else?